Good evening. It is 7 o'clock. I will call to order the February 20th, 2025 meeting of the Fort Atkinson City Council. Clerk Everett, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Becker,
Here.
Councilman Jekyll,
Here.
Councilman Johnson,
Here.
Councilman Schultz.
Here.
President Liskell.
Here.
Thank you.
Item 3, public hearings. There are none this evening. Item 4, public comment. The City Council will receive comments from city residents. Comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per individual. Anyone wishing to speak is required to sign up in advance or state the following items for the record when called upon: name, address, subject matter, and contact information. No action will be taken on any public comments unless the item is also elsewhere on the agenda. Note for those following along on hybrid, if anyone on the Zoom wishes to speak during the public comment period, please raise your virtual hand through Zoom. The chat box is not monitored during the meeting, and those on the call, please remain muted if you're not recognized to speak. We do not have anyone who has signed up in person to provide public comment this evening. At this time, I would invite anyone who is on Zoom interested in providing public comment to indicate as such. Hearing none, we will move on. Item 5, consent agenda. The consent agenda outlined below is hereby presented for action by the City Council. Items may be removed from the consent agenda on the request of any one council member. Items not removed may be adopted by one action without debate. Removed items may be taken up either immediately after the consent agenda or placed later on the agenda at the discretion of the council president.
I would move to approve the consent agenda as listed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? I just have one small note in the minutes for our last meeting. I think it had us calling it to order at 6 p.m. Tiny little. So if the person who made the motion and the second is good with that minor tweak.
Accept. Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, motion is to approve the consent agenda as listed with the one correction, items 5A through 5F. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is approved. Petitions, requests, and communications. Item 6A, Library 2024 Year-End Report. Library Director Lippert with us this evening.
Hi, yes, it is my pleasure this evening to share a numerical review of 2024 at the library. And I think I have an image, but I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know you have a long agenda. Great, thank you. Okay, so let's move to the next slide already. Thank you. Very good. So here is a graphic that we've shared with the public about the library in 2024. We pulled lots of different stats about our services throughout the year, and we're going to dive in and look at some details behind the numbers on this graphic that we've been sharing. So on this slide, you can see that in 2024, community members checked out 162,000 items from the library. And that brings me to my favorite number, which is that community members saved more than $3 million by using the public library in 2024 compared to if they had checked out the items individually. On the right, you can see one of my checkout receipts. So on all of our printed receipts, not everyone chooses to get a printed receipt, but if you do, at the bottom, it'll say how much you saved that visit to the library and how much you saved throughout the year. So personally, I've already saved $2,000 by using the library. I'm a big fan. Okay, looking at programs. In 2024, we offered more than 400 programs for all different ages at the library. The program with the highest attendance was the 4K Art Gala with 254 attendees. And for adults, the program with the highest attendance was a presentation called Hiking the Appalachian Trail, led by David Ferrari. And I am personally proud of this one because David Ferrari used to volunteer at the library when he was in middle and high school, and he was also active on the Teen Advisory Board. So I'm very proud of him. Let's look at the next one. In 2024, we added more than 1,000 new card holders. Here you can see Sandy dropping off 200 plus new cards for students. We partner with the school district to create new cards for students, and there she is dropping them off at the mail. Let's look at the next one. Very good. So here in 2024, we had more than 84,000 different visits to the library. I looked through our stats and our highest visit day was Wednesday, April 17th, with 611 visitors on that day. I did dig into a little bit why we had so many people that day. I can't nail it down completely, but we had 21 meeting room bookings on that day. 10 is about average for us. So it was a very busy meeting room day. Fun fact, it didn't add to our foot traffic, but on that day, our Lunch Bunch for Homeschoolers group came here for a presentation with City Manager Houseman to learn about city government. And then they played in the gym with Parks and Rec. But that didn't add to the foot traffic of the library. It was just something that we did in the community room that day. And finally, our library also checked out more than 40,000 digital items, with more than 3/4 of those digital items being through the Libby or Overdrive app. So we're checking out items beyond just physical books. So those are some details behind the numbers I've shared, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Those numbers are staggering. Do you see, are they continuing to grow, holding steady, or
They are
any
not
trends?
record-breaking numbers, but they're healthy numbers, I would say. So overall checkouts did go down a little bit, and then therefore overall savings did go down a little bit. I think we're down like 100,000 in the overall savings when I glanced at the numbers today. We do know that our physical AV circulation numbers are dropping pretty fast, because who has a DVD player at their house at this point? Those numbers are dropping every day. So I'm not concerned about the decreases that we've seen. I would say the 2024 numbers were healthy numbers, but definitely changing a little bit. Similar program numbers to last year.
When you report like checked out versus saved, is the saved portion as if you bought a book?
Yes, yes. So each of our items, we put in how much that item would cost new. And so then the system just calculates how much you'd save if you had bought that item yourself.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it comes to about an average of $20 per book. Kids' books are cheaper than adult books. Adult books average 25, 30. Large print are more like $40 per. Kids' books are a lot cheaper for us.
You know, our family uses it regularly. I think you guys are doing a tremendous job. So these numbers are really great to see.
I can personally attest to the dollar amounts for the children's books that you get the bill for when they are past due significantly. But luckily, they're very patient, and if you return the book, you don't have to pay for it.
Yes, we are a
It's not
fine-free library. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? No. Thank you for the report. Item 6B, review and possible action relating to a proclamation recognizing February 5th, 2025 as Monarch Pledge Day in the city of Fort Atkinson. Manager Houseman.
Thank you. Through the National Wildlife Federation's Mayor's Monarch Pledge, cities commit each year to creating habitats and educating residents on how to make a difference at home or in their community. The city has taken this pledge annually since 2022. And in order to do that, we need to complete at least 3 of 30 action items to help save monarch butterflies. And we celebrated this on February 5th by launching our public communication effort to encourage residents to plant monarch gardens in their homes. We also have a pollinator garden at the Hoard Historical Museum, as well as we will put some in our park space in 2025 like we have in the past. So there is not a financial impact on the city for this proclamation, and staff does recommend that the city council approve that proclamation for Monarch Pledge Day to raise awareness about the issues that pollinators face.
I move to approve the proclamation for Monarch Pledge Day and declare February 5th, 2025 as Monarch Pledge Day in the city of Fort Atkinson.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the proclamation. Any discussion? Hearing none, motion is to approve the proclamation for Monarch Pledge Day and declare February 5th, 2025 as Monarch Pledge Day in the city of Fort Atkinson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is approved. Resolutions and ordinances. We have a handful, half dozen here that are all sort of related. I think we'll invite Building Inspector and Zoning Administrator Drager up to kind of give an overview of items 7A through 7F, I believe, and then we'll take them up individually.
Okay. I don't have to say that. Good job. I was planning to do that. I appreciate it. So yes, they are all related. They all have to do with the new Ridgeview Estates development happening up by the Banker Road, previously known as the Banker Road development. And we have here is 2 preliminary certified survey maps and 2 general development plans, and then the associated zoning map amendments. So how these work here is initially we've seen the preliminary plat for the subdivision with some timelines and obligations on the city's part. The staff and the developer have worked on certified survey map, which is a minor land division. So these are coming forward to you, and what they are is 4 lots or less, and the associated public rights of way, which are there. So the 2 CSMs you have right now are lots, the lot 1 and outlot 1, which is for stormwater retention for the entire development. And then you have the second CSM, which is a multifamily development lot and 3 single-family lots, and the associated public infrastructure that's around them, establishing those lines. The general development plan for each, I'll start off with the multifamily 87 unit apartment building. This part of the PUD process, plan unit development, is the zoning aspect of it. So the site plan, overall overview of the building design and all those aspects come through the special implementation plan, which is similar to a site plan, which Plan Commission will review. But to keep you all in the same loop, we're going to present the entire project so that you may see, well, the entire scope of it. Starting with that 87 unit apartment building, it's 3 stories, there's underground parking, exterior parking as well. Like I said, there's a stormwater basin behind it. Some of the flexibilities that are being sought here, and the reason for the planned unit development, are setbacks on this lot. It's a dense zoning, and site constrictions have brought it to a reason for them to encroach the established setbacks for the MRH 30, which is the the base zoning for this particular development. In case you're unfamiliar, the PUD process is an overlay zoning. So we have the base zoning of MRH 30 in this case, which is our densest residential zoning. But when you're looking for flexibilities outside of our ordinances, we have to do a plan unit development in order to incorporate that, which is an overlay zoning. But the base zoning still remains. So the flexibilities they're looking for on this particular situation are mostly setbacks in the rear, front, parking setbacks, I believe. Overall, the project is meeting our site plan, site plan approval process and specifications. And it's just those setbacks that we're looking for, that the developer is looking for flexibilities on. Next would be the MRM 12, which is a medium density residential, and that's on the second CSM that you'll be looking at and be on the agenda here. That is also looking for the same type of flexibilities, which are setbacks, mostly for site constraints. All these have had grading and topography issues, or I shouldn't say issues, but adding to the restraints on the lots, causing them to have to move these buildings a little bit closer to the boundaries, and why they're seeking flexibilities. The majority of the site plan and the building designs and all those are meeting our ordinances pertaining to driveways, building design, articulation, different materials on the outside for long walls, so they're pleasing to the general public as they're driving by. So as I said, this is GDP is the zoning aspect of the approval process for that. And then the zoning map amendments is the formal reading of those zoning map amendments. I guess from there, I guess I would take any questions. The Plan Commission has viewed this thing, reviewed all of these and recommended city council approval with the flexibilities laid out in the GDP plan, as well as the 1 through 8 items that are listed on both of those CSM recommendations from the Plan Commission. And I would leave it there, I guess, and then we can take any questions you have on it, or we can work down the agenda for each one of them and then approach each of these individual items and questions might be.
The first building that you mentioned, like 80 some apartments, you said?
Yes, 87, actually, we have it up on the screen now here. That's the base layout of it. So as you can see, it's an L-shaped building, it's 3 stories and it's underground parking. Here you can see the stormwater plan coming from up the development north of that.
Is there a projected possible rent?
Just
assumption?
market rate. We don't have the exact number for that, so I would imagine they're gonna look at the surrounding area and they're gonna develop the rates off of that, what they feel they can get. It will be market rate.
Yeah, I understood market rate, but I was just curious if they had like a minimum, because if they can project the cost of the building, they say we need to get at least a minimum of X per apartment.
Yeah, I don't have those numbers from 'em. I know that they're, with the proposal, they're guaranteeing a certain dollar amount, part of the development plan. And so I think along that should be in our, I think we laid that out in the financial portion of the city council packet. If I could just find that, I have the dollar amount here.
The developer has done a market study, but we don't have the exact rents that they will be charging.
I was just curious of an approximate thought that if, was it gonna be $1,000 a month apartment or $2,000 a month apartment?
Yeah, that'll vary a little bit on the property too, since they have 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom and some efficiency ones as well. As far as the parking, Plan Commission brought up one question with the parking, if they're gonna charge extra for those spots or not. That I don't have, we didn't get the pricing, or nor do we ask for it.
Is there enough underground parking to service at least a parking stall to each apartment?
All but one. So one unit, I believe, is short one parking space. They have ample parking outside of that. 2 of those spaces are handicap spaces, and I believe they may have lost one space because they put a underground car wash station.
Kind of in question with the parking. I know it was brought up during Plan Commission about the amount of parking stalls.
Mhm.
How is the city ordinance written to require, like, what's the mathematical formula for the city ordinance side versus, like, I know you said during the Plan Commission that they see a need for more stalls than what the city is
Mhm.
allowing them.
Yeah. So when our ordinance was redone in 2020, the required parking was reduced because we end up with large development, shopcos and commercial properties like that where we have excessive parking and paved areas. It was reduced to the minimum amount and it's based off of occupants.
Okay.
So they exceeded the required amount based on their data of what they are seeing in their other developments of what they typically are being asked for or see being used. So they went above and beyond that. But there was some times where we were going through review where they had the parking was initially over the stormwater easement. So they had, I think it was 12 additional spots from where they are now that we asked them to reduce, not necessarily the total number, but to get that parking area off of the easement.
Okay.
And that reduced it by 12. Plus there was some additional potential areas that could become problematic with the ingress and egress off of the street, where they had cars that could be backing into that space. We asked them to clean those areas up, which they're great partners on working on that. But I believe they developed these areas based off of what they're seeing on their other developments.
Okay.
And then one of the other questions in that same meeting was, could we get them to reduce it a little bit more? But some of those are in the winter time are set for snow staging.
Yeah. Just, I was kind of reading or listening to it the other day, and my basic math kind of questions if there's enough parking I see like down to Whitewater, they put up two big newer buildings. And the streets are just flooded with parked cars because of it. Granted, I know part of that might be it's college kids, so there's
Mhm.
more college kids per unit.
Mhm.
But, you know, just math wise, you know, you figure some of these units are gonna be 1 to 2 adults, so you figure, you know, 1 to 2 cars per unit. Was kind of my concern is if there's gonna be enough parking, I don't want us congesting up the streets with off-site parking if we can help it.
Yeah, that's understood, and I can see your point there. Yeah, I think for what they have here, I think they're maximizing the space they have available. But it is nice that that lot does continue around closer to Banker, and I believe another unit would have an opportunity for additional parking on that side of the
Okay.
development as well.
Okay, perfect. I had another question, but I lost it, so.
Well, you know, we have 6 items. If it comes back to you, I think
Yep.
it would be fair to kind of revisit one if it comes back to you, because we
Absolutely.
don't usually kind of take a chunk like this at one time, so it's a lot to absorb.
And if you would like, we could scroll down through here and I can make comments on these too, just so we're not missing anything if you like. Most of those are stormwater, and you saw the parking plan. So here's your parking layout in the lower level parking. This is something that stems back to earlier plans for development in this area. City staff was searching for underground parking or looking for that just to kind of reduce that above on-ground parking and potential for garage banks that eat up a lot of real estate that's very valuable.
And it's a lot more impermeable surface. I
Mhm.
definitely understand at that point.
Absolutely. And then we have to increase the stormwater retention areas and to accommodate all of that stuff. So, and they're, like I said, they're market rate, but from what I understand, they're supposed to be pretty nice units. We don't get down into the specific details of what exactly unit or what appliances they're putting in there, but the overall scope and if you read their plan there, they're supposed to be pretty decent units. With hard surface countertops and decent appliances and things in that. And that's not just for visual, that's for longevity, for lack of, less maintenance on those items as well.
So this is a view of the 3rd floor right now, and you can see that there's a community center, a workstation area, and then all the different types of units here. And then on the 2nd floor over here, we have a fitness center, and then similarly laid out units. So as Jed mentioned, there are 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and efficiency units proposed in this building.
And that's primarily based off their market study, once again, what they're seeing a demand for, or the highest demand, I should say.
The other question came back to me, but it might be more of like a fire chief question. I've heard of some of these buildings kind of, it gets hard to access fire equipment into the parking lot to combat a structure fire or something. Is there any concerns on your end?
No, we've looked at it and,
Chief, can you go up to the microphone, please, for people on Zoom?
and we've looked at it. They have, when they designed this, they have the turning radiuses of our vehicles, so they'll know our longest vehicle is our truck. So we'll check that they can make sure that we can make all the turns and have multiple exits to get out and in there.
And there's plenty of room to set up the ladders and
Correct.
everything?
Yep.
Okay. I know just, especially with the stormwater pond on the backside, that limits any access to the backside of the building, but.
Correct.
I assume these types of buildings have to have interior sprinkler systems,
Yes.
so, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, this building would be fully sprinklered. Automatic alarm system. I believe our ordinances for regarding parking and fire trucks and radiuses and that stuff are all associated with the fire department, and that's why there's limits to those set and
Like I
established.
said, I've heard of other communities having issues with, all of a sudden a structure fire breaks out and, well, with cars parked in the lot, we can't get our ladders in to set up properly and combat it, so
Understood, yeah.
I want to make sure, this big of a development, we're not setting something up for failure.
Right, we wouldn't want to
Well,
overlook that.
Hopefully, God forbid, there's never any fires or something, but
Yeah, one thing I will let you know during our staff process, when we get these types of projects in here for review, we do send that out to all the departments for comment to view these
Okay.
and try to share it as a group.
Are we on the second PUD here?
Yes.
Jed? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we can move on. So this one in particular, that's the lot 2. So on the left-hand side would be Trillion Drive, and then to the top would be the high school on the other side of that. So this is a 2 principal building. This, that's another reason for the PUD request. Our zoning requires 1 principal building. When you go to 2, you're looking at the PUD, it's a flexibility. These are townhomes, so they are attached, but they're separate units, and there's 4 in each. So they are an individual environment. They have their own access in and out, their own garage space. So it acts as an individual home, but they are one larger structure combined.
And they will be owner occupied.
Correct, yes. Yeah, these would be owner occupied. So that they're metered separately, electric and water and all those items.
Taxes and everything.
Is this, this is one of the structures that they've tweaked the design a little bit, enhanced it for an even more attractive appearance?
Yes, yeah. During review, we looked over this as a staff, and the backside of these buildings. So what you're looking at would be the west and east, that's the ends. So the south on the one on the left, and then the north facades originally were just a blank wall with one color. And per ordinance, they need to break that up with articulation or different colors or materials to give it some depth to the building, which they did. And same thing on the end units here to give it a little bit of texture and warming feel from the outside view looking in. Because typically you would have the front of the building, this facing the public right away, but as I said, with the restrictions on the piece of land, this happened to work out better to get to maximize the space. So they did enhance the portions of the building that are facing the public right away. And it's a nice looking building, I think. So if you want to continue down, or unless anybody has any questions on the exterior here, but as I said, this here is an overview of it. This comes under higher scrutiny under the SIP, or the Special Implementation Plan, which Plan Commission will go over. So it's heavily scrutinized through that part over our site plan requirements. This approval tonight would just be for the zoning aspect of it. These will go through a separate approval, but we did want you all to be involved in seeing where this project is at, and the work that's gone in by the developer and staff to get this to be a really nice project, we think. So once again, these are the ends of the building. They're adding vertical siding and in different colors and textures to make it more attractive on the ends where you typically would see a reduction in cost of, facade. So if we want to, can we scroll down a little bit further? So then we have the lighting, different eyes. So we're meeting all the ordinances there. There you can see the floor plan, general floor plan of the structures themselves. Stormwater. They did make some changes to stormwater during review, where they're going to put an inlet, stormwater inlet there in the parking area, and some curbing to redirect that stuff directly into the stormwater and then eventually into that outlot, so that it's not rushing out into the street and adding to potential hazards there. A lot of extra information, stormwater reports in there, yeah. And then there you have that's the draft zoning map amendment, or amendment to the official zoning map.
Okay, is that
Is that-
through all of it?
Yep, I think so, yeah.
We'll circle back and go through each one of the agenda items individually. If there are any questions, or please feel free to continue the discussion. Item 7A is review and possible action relating to a certified survey map for the property located east of Fort Atkinson High School, south of Trillium Drive, and west of Banker Road in the city of Fort Atkinson.
I would move to approve the preliminary certified survey map for the property located east of Fort Atkinson High School, south of Trillium Drive, and west of Banker Road in the city of Fort Atkinson, with the conditions outlined in the staff report.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the map. Any further discussion at this time? Hearing none, motion is to approve the preliminary certified survey map for the property located east of Fort Atkinson High School, south of Trillium Drive, and west of Banker Road in the city of Fort Atkinson, with the conditions outlined in the staff report. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is approved. Item 7B, review and possible action on a certified survey map for the property located east of Fort Atkinson High School, north of Trillium Drive, and west of Banker Road in the city of Fort Atkinson.
I would move to approve the preliminary certified survey map for the property located east of Fort Atkinson High School, north of Trillium Drive, and west of Banker Road in the city of Fort Atkinson, with conditions outlined in the staff report.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve this map. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the preliminary certified survey map for the property located east of Fort Atkinson High School, north of Trillium Drive, and west of Banker Road in the city of Fort Atkinson, with the conditions outlined in the staff report. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Item 7C, review and possible action on a planned unit development, general development plan for the property known as Lot 1, formerly known as Lot 61, located east of Fort Atkinson High School, south of Trillium Drive, and west of Banker Road in the city of Fort Atkinson.
I move to approve the planned unit development, general development plan for the property known as Lot 1, formerly known as Lot 61, located east of Fort Atkinson High School, south of Trillium Drive, and west of Banker Road in the city of Fort Atkinson, with the conditions outlined in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the planned unit development plan. Any further any further discussion? You almost got lost. Hearing none, motion is to approve the planned unit development, general development plan for the property known as Lot 1, formerly known as Lot 61, located east of Fort Atkinson High School, south of Trillium Drive, and west of Banker Road in the city of Fort Atkinson, with the conditions outlined in the staff report. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is approved. Item 7D, review and possible action on a planned unit development, general development plan for the property known as Lot 2, formerly known as Lot 1, located east of Fort Atkinson High School, north of Trillium Drive, and west of Banker Road in the city of Fort Atkinson.
I move to approve the planned unit development, general development plan for the property known as Lot 2, formerly known as Lot 1, located east of Fort Atkinson High School, north of Trillium Drive, and west of Banker Road in the city of Fort Atkinson, with the conditions outlined in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the plan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the planned unit development, general development plan for the property known as Lot 2, formerly known as Lot 1, located east of Fort Atkinson High School, north of Trillium Drive, and west of Banker Road in the city of Fort Atkinson, with the conditions outlined in the staff report. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is approved. Item 7E, first reading of a proposed ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the city of Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin for the property known as Lot 1, formerly Lot 61, located east of Fort Atkinson High School, south of Trillium Drive, and west of Banker Road in the city of Fort Atkinson, from MRH 30, multifamily residential 30, to PUD, Planned Unit Development District.
I move to direct the city manager to prepare the ordinance for a second reading and possible third final reading at the meeting on March 4th, 2025.
Second.
A motion and a second to move this on to its second possible third reading, next meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, motion is to direct the city manager to prepare the ordinance for a second reading and possible third and final reading at the meeting on March 4th, 2025. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is approved. Item 7F, first reading of a proposed ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the city of Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin for the property known as Lot 2, formerly Lot 1, located east of Fort Atkinson High School, north of Trillium Drive, and west of Banker Road in the city of Fort Atkinson from SR2, Single Family Residential District, to MRM8, Multifamily Residential Medium 8, with a PUD planned unit development.
If I may interject, that should be MRM 12.
Okay, so the MRM8 should be MRM12 in both of those sites. There's two references to it. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have MRM 12 in the flexibilities.
Okay,
Yes. Excuse me, we will amend that in the ordinance. It's just the first reading of the ordinance. So this will come back to the city council. We will make sure that that is the MRM 12 multifamily. The 8 versus 12 versus 30 refers to the density permitted in that zoning district. It refers to the number of units per acre permitted. So the MRM 12 would be more appropriate for this. So we will, if the council so moves, we can certainly amend the ordinance when it comes back to reflect that.
My apologies. That was originally listed as that that 8 originally, and it got switched over to MRM 12, and somewhere in translation it must have got lagged behind. But
okay,
I assure you that all the approvals and the reviews were based off of that MRM 12.
okay. With that edit, is there a motion?
I would,
Go ahead.
I would move to direct the city manager to prepare the ordinance for a second reading and possible third final reading at the meeting on March 4th, 2025 with the amended updates of MRM-12.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to prepare it for a second and possible third reading. Any further discussion? Hearing none, motion is to direct the city manager to prepare the ordinance for a second reading and possible third and final reading at the meeting on March 4th, 2025, noting that it should be MRM 12. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a mouthful. Reports of officers, boards, and committees, item 8A, city manager's report. Manager Houseman.
Thank you. On February 17th, Clerk Ebert officially swore in Justice Reith as a full-time firefighter EMT in the fire department. Congratulations to Jay and his family. However, I will note that this was not his first day on the job. Just 2 days prior, on Saturday, February 15th, Jay and other full-time and part-time members of our fire EMS department participated in a daring and successful water rescue on Lake Koshkonong after a snowmobiler fell through the ice. I would like to take a moment to recognize Captain Mike Vorpal, Frank Weiss, Brandon Rogdenby, and Jill Riefsnyder, along with Jay, who are all directly involved in getting the patient out of the icy water at great risk to themselves. So I want to thank them for their service. At the February 17th Police and Fire Commission meeting, the PFC approved police department promotions for Lieutenant Dan Hefty to Captain Dan Hefty and Lieutenant Ben Lindsay to Captain Ben Lindsay. Congratulations to both of them. There will be a promotional ceremony on Monday, March 3rd at 8:30 a.m. at the police department, and all are welcome for that. Also note that both the police and fire departments have released their annual reports, which are available on the city's website. Congratulations to Recreation Supervisor Brett Ketterman, who received the esteemed 25 Years of Service Award while attending the 60th Annual Wisconsin Parks and Recreation Association Conference and Awards Banquet. It's great to continue to have such a well-respected professional on our team. Michelle Ebert, Courtney Home, and a long list of election officials administered another free, fair, and successful election on February 18th. Thank you to Michelle and her team, as well as park staff, for their work before, during, and after the election. The next and last election scheduled for 2025 is on April 1st. I'd also like to welcome our newest employee in the Water Utility Department, Brandon Zastro. Brandon is a water crew person and will be working to obtain his water operating licenses over the next several years. Welcome to Brandon. The deadline to apply for the city's to be the city's next Public Works Director was yesterday. The city's recruiting firm has now provided me with a list of potential interview candidates, and we will meet early next week to determine the schedule and the folks who will be interviewed for that. On Sunday, February 16th, the Horde Historical Museum hosted the annual the Fort Atkinson Historical Society, which operates the museum in partnership with the city. As part of the program, staff and volunteers read select writings from the museum's archives. The oldest letter dating from 1836, and the newest selection was a poem from the 1970s, all on topics of love in honor of Valentine's Day. The 4K Art Gala will take place at the library on Thursday, February 27th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. Art created by each 4-year-old kindergarten student from the school district of Fort Atkinson will be on display in the children's area. The event is hosted by the library in partnership with the school district and highlights the amazing and creative art skills of our district's youngest learners. Everyone is welcome to attend that reception. The Public Works and Parks divisions have begun moving into the new Public Works and Parks Operations facility. They received owner training over the last week or so and are waiting on a couple additional technology items and furnishings before they begin to operate out of that building. So I know Tom and his team are, as well as the Parks team, are very excited to be operating from the new facility. Tomorrow, I will be in Madison at a League of Wisconsin Municipalities Urban Alliance meeting. The meeting will focus on utility infrastructure with information relating to lead lateral removal programs, chloride in water and wastewater systems, management of biosolids, and financing utility structure or infrastructure. And finally, there is a public information meeting relating to the South Main Street Bike and Pedestrian Path project at the municipal building in this room on Tuesday, March 4th at 4 p.m. Adjacent property owners have been invited, and the public and council members are also welcome to attend. That project is scheduled for construction in 2026. And that's all I have.
Thanks for the report. Unfinished business. We have 3 items under this one, and similar to how we handled the last one, I will handle them all or invite our interim city engineer up to take them all, and then we will circle back and handle all of them individually. They are review and possible action relating to Ridgeview Estates construction change orders number 1, 2, and 3. Engineer Burt.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that introduction. Yes, as you had mentioned, this is a continuation of my report back in January 21st, where we had talked about soils that were not conducive for road construction. But at the time, the quantity of those materials was unknown. They were still continuing with construction. Since then, those activities have commenced, and so we have been able to quantify those quantities and determine what the dollar amounts are for each of those change orders. Change order 1 is for capturing some additional structural material from off-site of the development. There's about 25,000 yards of good structural material that they need to borrow in order to build the roads. Change order 2 was for the disposal of the junk material that was found during construction. If you recall in our previous discussion, there was debris, tires, tree stumps, tree trunks, a lot of material that just simply isn't good for building a road on top of. So that second change order was for disposal of that material. And lastly, this one we did not talk about last time, but this is for additional clearing and grubbing of trees along Banker Road, just south of where Marigold will eventually connect with Banker, as well as some clearing and grading along the west boundary along the high school property. The tree clearing along Banker, that initially was going to be deferred to phase 2 of the project, in large part because there were some overhead utility lines, and so those were, between the trees, it would have been quite difficult to remove those trees. But the utility has sooner than thought removed the overhead lines and did bury those. So that was one reason for removal of the trees. Secondarily, back to the idea of we were short on structural material. there was found to be some good structural material in that area. So they also were able to borrow some of that there. And then lastly, the extension of Marigold, or jumping across Banker Road, there is a sanitary sewer extension that goes through Marigold and ultimately crosses Banker on the east side, and some trees need to be cleared over there to allow for that to happen. And lastly, on the west side by the high school property, they discovered that there was a large knoll, basically a hill essentially within the trees there, that would have made those lots unbuildable. So in order to rectify that, there's some additional tree clearing there, and also some additional grading that extended into the high school property. And with their permission, that work has been completed, thereby making those lots now readily available for building a new house. With that, I'll take any questions.
I will just make a couple notes. The total for these three change orders is $210,832. The contingency for the project was $200,678,000. So these three change orders do total about $10,000 more than the contingency. In the memo, we have a summary of the estimated construction expenses associated with this project. That's let's see, on page 180 of the packet. That is just an estimate. We don't have the final numbers for the WE gas install as well as the WE electric install. And also note that the funding sources for the project totaled for $4.825 million, with the estimated project expenses being $4.81 million. So we do feel comfortable with these change orders going through, even though it is just a small amount above what our contingency is for this project. We will continue to monitor all the costs associated with the project and identify additional funding sources if or when necessary for this. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on that piece too.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll just work our way through the three items, and if there are any specific questions to that agenda item, take the questions in.
Sure.
That works. Okay, item 9A is review and possible action relating to Ridgeview Estates construction change order number 1 for $137,500. Any questions on this item?
I guess most of the excavation work is pretty much done in this area for any unseen soils.
Yeah, that's correct. The grading operations are largely complete at this point. So once spring finally arrives and the frost is out of the ground, they will be able to start the road construction project.
Okay. So really shouldn't see any more major.
Correct. I would say
concerns.
there's the great many of the potential unknowns. We are now past that. We're essentially kind of coming out of the ground, if you will. So I wouldn't expect any more surprises.
Okay.
Could you maybe describe how, like, what actions or steps that you took to reduce the cost for this? I believe it was described during the last council meeting, but if you could maybe take a minute or two to kind of review that.
I think the biggest steps that were taken first when it was discovered that this the materials that they're finding on site weren't aligning with what the soil borings were telling them during design. So first and foremost, we needed to, quantify or identify the extent of this material. So some additional test pits were done by the contractor, and that helped to narrow down what the true footprint and depth. So before actually just diving in and excavating this material, we, as best as you could, try to quantify that material, and then looked for ways within the project boundary, and the engineer, Quam Engineering, did a variety of alternatives analysis to look to see how they could modify designs within the subdivision to take this material, because now we have poor material that we can't use for the roads, but we don't want to pay the expense to, haul this off-site. And then along with that poor material, there is also test pits done just outside this phase, and that's how they discovered that on the PUD lot, I think it's lot 71, that there was a very large deposit of good structural material. So looking back, it was kind of some preliminary or some additional field investigation that really helped to minimize, I guess, the costs at the end of the day, rather than just, authorizing them to just move forward. There were some, the brakes were pushed, and did some additional testing to verify what the next course of action would be.
Any other questions on change order 1? If not, I would entertain a motion, please.
Move to approve the change order number 1 for the Ridgeview Estates construction project for $137,500 to be paid for using Banker Road construction expenditure account.
Second.
A motion, a second to approve change order number 1. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to approve change order number 1 for the Ridgeview Estates construction project for $137,500 to be paid for using the Banker Road construction expenditure account. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry for jumping in there too quick for you. All right, motion is approved. Item 9B, review and possible action relating to Ridgeview Estates construction change order number 2 for $60,732. Any questions on this change order?
I just had one quick question. I know that there was a large volume of this material that had to be removed. The numbers show that, but I was just surprised that some of it had to be hauled as far as Cambridge. Was there just not enough room on the east side of Banker Road for additional material?
Yeah, kind of like the other material, when that first was discovered, there was a number of different options analyzed, including on the other side of Banker Road. And just due really to the anticipated large volume of that, and seeing what they would have to do to prepare the site on the east side of Banker, it was just too large of a volume of material that would just kind of be deferring the problem,
Sure.
down the road. So again, we looked at a number of different options, and they actually initially took the first couple loads to the city dump. Then they were authorized to continue to the Cambridge site while they could. And during that time, then we continued to look for other options. And that's how we ended up with hauling the additional material in the open area by there's a storm pond in that northeast corner up at Banker and Horde Road. And the reasoning that was allowed versus, in the trees, that we have a plan for, future development, because it's near a storm pond, that they can essentially design in a disposal site there, because there won't be, houses or development, right next to the pond. So they essentially can basically dig a hole and dispose of that material there. And that was by far the cheapest of the 4 different, or the 3 different options for disposal.
Got it.
Yeah.
And to be clear, we did not rebury any of the garbage
Yes.
material. It was
Absolutely, yes.
just non-structural
Correct.
soils.
Correct. It's all organic material that is over there. And then also too, the initial estimates, I think, were about 7,500 cubic yards of material. And I think they ended up in the 5,000-ish range
Okay.
when all said and done. So it was less, thankfully, than they initially thought.
Good.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Are there other questions on change order number 2?
I will move to approve change order number 2 for the Ridgeview Estates construction project for $60,732 to be paid for using the Banker Road construction expenditure account.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve change order number 2. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to approve change order number 2 for the Ridgeview Estates construction project for $60,732 to be paid for using the Banker Road construction expenditure account. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is approved. Item 9C, review and possible action relating to Ridgeview Estates construction change order number 3 for $12,600. Any questions on this item?
I'll move to approve change order number 3 for the Ridgeview Estates construction project for $12,600 to be paid for using the Banker Road construction expenditure account.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve change order number 3. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to approve change order number 3 for Ridgeview Estates construction project for $12,600 to be paid for using the Banker Road construction expenditure account. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I think I caught a nod there.
Yes, I couldn't get to the
Any
button in time.
opposed? Motion is approved. New business, item 10A, review and possible action relating to a proposal from Stantec Consulting Services Incorporated for the Loeb Lorman remediation project. Engineer Burt.
Okay, well, I'll do my best on this one. This in large part took place before me or without my involvement, but what I can gather is Terracon was contracted with to prepare a report to the DNR for this site in order to close it out and allow the city to convert that back to green space. So they, in July of 2022, Terracon submitted a site investigation report to the DNR, which was returned, or DNR then reviewed that, provided some feedback, a review letter back to them in July of 2023. And then, DNR reviewed that and gave them some recommendations and commentary on that, which they revised the report and resubmitted that back in July of 2023. Then, as of July or December of 2024, the DNR then submitted a secondary letter and basically said that they are not accepting that site investigation work. So at that time, the city staff and I think the city attorney reached out to Stantec to develop what's called a site investigation work plan. So essentially, the DNR wants the city through Stantec's assistance to basically develop a plan moving forward, how they're going to proceed with closing out this site. So this is kind of the preliminary steps to move forward. And so I think it's a great idea because now they will have DNR's review on, here is our plan to move forward. Do you approve of this plan? And then getting their the green light from DNR, then we can proceed on from there. So this is the proposal from Stantec for just that, some gathering some information and developing a work plan that will be submitted to DNR.
So these would be the preliminary steps for it. Are there a lot of other hurdles
Yeah.
after that? I mean,
We're-
that's not part of this.
Right, the
but
work
just
plan
looking
would
forward.
basically, as it implies, is kind of like, here's what we feel are the steps that we will need to take to close out the site. They'll submit that to DNR and get the hopefully get the blessing from DNR. And then at that point, then they can start going down that process to come to closure.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I didn't know if you had something.
I did, I just, was, a little disappointed to read the letter. It seemed like Terracon just didn't fulfill the requirements. Were we able to recoup any of this cost from Terracon and them not really performing to the contract, or were there any steps like that taken otherwise?
So I can tell you that when we received the letter in December, it was a little bit surprising. We had a phone call, Teams meeting with the folks from the DNR just about a week before we received the letter, and they mentioned that there were additional steps that were required in the letter that we were going to receive, but they felt it was a generally positive call. So when we received this letter, it was very concerning. And that was during the, transition between our public works director who was leaving and us trying to get Andy Burt up to speed. So Terracon has been helpful. They have provided all of their information to Stantec. We did not request to recoup any of that money from Terracon. It is not clear if there is fault on Terracon's side or if there was a little bit of moving goalposts. I don't think a year and a half to review a document submitted is reasonable. And that, it was submitted on July 23rd of 2023. We didn't get this letter from the DNR until December of 2024. I know that the DNR is like many of our state agencies are, understaffed. But it was a bit of a surprise to get the letter, especially after having that phone call with the DNR. But we did look at having a different approach, and Stantec came well recommended by Godfrey Kahn and William Nelson, who is our consulting attorney on this matter. He is a formerly worked for the DNR as an attorney. So we have shifted a little bit to get some more information and get Stantec up to speed. I don't have an estimate of how much closure will cost. However, I will say that the site won't be completely closed until we know what's going to be on it, and we don't know what's going to be on it for 5 years from that May of 2023 date. And that is due to the CDBG close grant funds that we've received to purchase the property and begin that remediation process. So one of the tasks that Stantec will be participating in is assisting us with finding grant opportunities to assist in paying for the final remediation and closure of the site. This is in our tax increment district number 10. Ultimately, the goal would be to have closure in conjunction with a development that would occur in 2028 or after.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I would just say, we obviously have to start this process. So I think this amount of money, at least to get a sense of what steps we have to take next is wise. So I will move to accept the proposal for environmental consulting services from Stantec Consulting Services, Inc. for $6,700 for the Low Blorman remediation project, and authorize the city manager to execute the associated professional services agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the proposal. Any further discussion?
I will also just note that we did have $15,000 in the 2025 budget for the Low Blorman remediation fund. So that money was identified and approved with the 2025 budget. Since that time, the council has moved those funds from the ARPA account to that assigned fund balance ARPA account. So while the budget document reflects that we have a Low Blorman account, those expenditures will come out of they will be shown in that fund, excuse me, that Loeb Lorman fund, but they will be kind of filtered through the assigned ARPA fund balance instead of the ARPA fund. And I apologize for all the confusion, but if you had the budget document in your brain the way that I do, I think that it would make more sense. So,
Okay, any further questions or discussion? Do we have a motion and a second? Hearing no further discussion, I move, the motion is to accept the proposal for environmental consulting services from Stan Tech Consulting Services Incorporated for $6,700 for the Loeb Lorman remediation project and authorize the city manager to execute the associated professional services agreement. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Item 10B, review and possible action relating to the 2025 Water Relay and Road Rehabilitation Bid Award recommendation. Engineer Burt.
Okay. Yes, on January the 24th, the city did receive 3 favorable bids from contractors with Forest Landscaping and Construction submitting the low bid. This company, Forest, we have no objections to in this award. Forest has completed numerous projects throughout the area, as well as the last 3 construction projects, annual construction projects within the city. And so, like I said, we have no objection to awarding them the contract.
I will just provide a little bit of additional background information. So in 2024, the City Council awarded the design work for the 2025 Water Relay and Road Rehabilitation Project to Rupert and Milky. In 2024, Andy Burt, on behalf of Rupert and Milky, designed the project, and then we did bid it through the proper bidding requirements of the state earlier this year. And then he referred to, was that in late January or very early February, we opened the bids, and the bid tabulation is included in the packet with the engineer's memo. And then we'll also say there were 4 alternates that included infill sidewalk in the project. And all 4 of those alternates are we can fund them through the budget for the project, which is shown on page 205 of the packet. This is our 2025 water main replacement work, right? So this is our road construction, road rehabilitation in association with the water main work. So you can see we split those into our 5 accounts. Those account numbers may change slightly, but they represent the 5 accounts that we use for this annual water main replacement and road construction work. If the council recalls, back in 2021, we received a conventional rate case from the Public Service Commission to allow us to replace water main annually with dedicated funds from our customers. So this, the water main account is for those dedicated funds from our water utility customers paying for the replacement of water main. Hydrants and services comes from our water utility account, and then the sanitary portion of the construction will be paid for through the sanitary utility as well, and same with the storm for stormwater construction, and then the remaining $1.3 million will be paid for out of our road account, which includes the vehicle registration fee, our levied transportation dollars, $500,000 of levied dollars annually, the vehicle transportation, vehicle registration fee, which equates to about $200,000 annually. And then there are borrowed funds from the 2024 borrowing that are included in this, as well as fund balance from Fund 5, underspent funds from the 2024 project. So as I mentioned, that table explaining the funding for the $2.6 million project, plus a 5% contingency, plus construction oversight for a grand total of $2.857 million for this project. I will note, though, that staff recommends the council award this 2025 water main, water relay and road rehabilitation work, including the base bid and the alternates A through D to Forest Landscaping and Construction Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $2,600,191.25. That contingency and oversight will be addressed separately.
Correct me if I'm wrong, have we not received more bids in prior years for this work? Or I feel like last year we received quite a few more bids.
I would
We
have
might
to,
received 5 bids maybe last year. And it's hard to judge that. There's so many factors that can go into that. You know, who's gonna bid. So it's really hard to say without asking the contractors.
I think for the Banker Road project, we
I know the
received
Banker Road, we received
multiple.
a lot, but I thought
yeah.
last year with the relay work, we received like 5 or 6 bids as well.
You classified them as 3 favorable bids. In your experience, they are,
Yeah, based on, because we always do a construction cost estimate with these projects, and the last 4 years, our estimates have been really close to the low bids, and all of the contractors that submitted the bids, I would deem as favorable, with the low bid actually being a little bit less than our estimate.
Just say yes, I think we've been very happy as a city with the Forest Landscaping. I don't think there's ever been too many concerns with their work. They always seem to do decent work for all the jobs we've hired them for.
Yeah, I've worked with Forest quite a bit, both in Fort Atkinson and other communities as well.
If I may, Councilman Jekyll, what you might be speaking of is last year when we bid for the design work, there were 13 firms that were solicited and 7 proposals were received, and that was for the design work.
Okay.
So it could been,
That might be where it's
yeah,
misinterpreted.
that's normally where we kind of see a little bit more versus the actual construction.
Okay.
I have a question. Looking on page 204, highlights the areas and the streets within the city that are targeted for this work. I'm just kind of ballparking. I haven't measured this, but I get the question I have is, do we know approximately how many? Is this about a mile with all streets combined? Maybe even less, or
I think it's slightly less than a mile. I think I think it's about 4,900 feet in total length.
okay. Just one thing I think that many people may overlook, right? We hear complaints about the wheel tax, which maybe generates the city about another $200,000, and they want to know why they don't have pristine streets. You know, this less than a mile just for the roadway is over $1 million. So that covers, you know, an eighth or a quarter a mile, maybe. I guess what I'm just trying to point out, just highlighting the cost necessary to do this work, and it's not even a mile of street and utility repair. So thank you for that answer. Less than a mile. Thank you.
any other questions?
I'd move to award the 2025 water relay and road rehabilitation work, including the base bid and alternates A through D to Forest Landscaping Construction Incorporated in amount not to exceed $2,600,191.25.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to award the bid. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to award the 2025 water relay and road rehabilitation work, including the base bid and alternates A through D to Forest Landscaping and Construction Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $2,600,191.25. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you, Andy. Item 10C, review and possible action relating to task order 2025-03 from Ruckert and Milky Incorporated for 2025 water relay and road rehabilitation. Construction Administration. Manager Hausman.
Thank you. So as referenced in the last staff report for the project, we do need some construction oversight for this. In the past, the city, as the owner of the project, has used different ways to oversee construction. Sometimes we use city staff. If we have city staff, sometimes we use consultants and a combination thereof. So right now, with vacancies in both the city engineer and the public works director positions, we do not have capacity to be able to effectively oversee the project. So Andy Burt, as our interim city engineer, has submitted this task order for construction administration for this 2025 road relay and water relay and road rehabilitation work in the amount of $127,150.60. So it is both efficient and effective to retain the services of the design engineering firm to oversee the construction of the project. And Rukert and Milky has successfully served in this capacity for several city projects in the past. So that cost, again, was outlined in the table in the previous memo. It is outlined again in the table in this memo on page 215 of the packet. And the construction oversight, as well as that contingency, is split by the percentage of each. It's actually, Andy Burt actually goes through the entire construction quantities, the entire project, and assigns which utility or general roadway should be paying for that section. So it's pretty accurate to understand, where the actual water mains, where that is being paid for, as well as the other utilities. So we use those percentages that you can see in the third column to assign the contingency and construction oversight. So staff does recommend that the City Council approve Task Order 2025-03 for $127,150.60 with Rukert and Milky for construction administration for the 2025 water relay and road rehabilitation project, and authorize the city manager to execute.
Any questions?
Makes sense. Seems like a good proposal. I will move to approve task order 2025-03 for $127,150.60 with Rukert and Milky Inc. for construction administration for the 2025 water relay and road rehabilitation project, and authorize the city manager to execute.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the task order. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to approve task order 2025-03 for $127,150.60 with Rukert and Milky Incorporated for construction administration for the 2025 water relay and road rehabilitation project, and authorize the city manager to execute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Item 10D, review and possible action relating on the repair of the front suction system on Fire Department Engine 8162. Fire Chief Peterson.
Good evening. I'm here to request approval for repairs for our engine 8162. It's our 2006 Pearson Forcer. During a recent training exercise, we were having difficulty drafting water through our front suction. We took it up to Reynolds and they disassembled the front suction and found extensive corrosion and wear beyond its service life, primarily due to a design issue when that vehicle was built in 2006. For some background, our department operates 3 fire engines. 8162 is our second engine out, with the primary responsibility of obtaining a water supply, either through hydrants or drafting rural water. So a functioning front suction is critical to our mission. And I'll note that this engine is not due to be replaced until at least 2032, making this repair critical. After we identified the issue, I investigated whether we could have prevented this issue and check into our other vehicles that has similar piping. We found about a 10-year period when this vehicle was being built, they used to have steel water tanks with a sacrificial anode rod in there, which would collect the chemicals, which would destroy the piping. During this engine was built, they put a poly tank in, but kept the steel piping up front. And without that rod in there, they found, as we're finding now, that it was corroding that steel piping. Fortunately, our other vehicles all have stainless steel piping and poly tanks, so we don't feel like we're going to see this issue with other vehicles. The scope of the repair will be the front actuator, swivel, the 5-inch plumbing, and all the valves for a cost of $12,189.37. I will note, we always try to get multiple quotes. However, as with some other repairs I've talked to you about, we don't know the scope of the repairs until it's at the dealer and it's all taken apart and we see what kind of issues we have. And that makes obtaining quotes from other vendors pretty difficult to do. But I will say that we typically use renters for this type of repair. We're confident in their work. They're our main source of repairs that we use for the fire department, and their rates are competitive with the industry. So given that, staff recommends council approve $12,189.39 to repair the front suction. This funds will come from the budget money in our truck repair fund.
I will just mention that there is $75,000 budgeted in that account for the year. And while it is not ideal to spend this much in February, it is necessary.
Is that truck out of service right now? Or
Right now,
you
it's in-
use it and kind of nurse along?
Yeah, it's in service, although we're not using front suction, obviously. If we have to draft, we'll draft from the midship sides, which isn't ideal. So once we get approval, they've ordered the parts and we'll bring it up there.
And how long is the repair expected?
About
to
3
be?
weeks.
3 weeks. Okay, any other questions?
Move to approve the repair of the fire engine 8162's front intake suction system at Reinhardt's Fire Equipment Service for an estimate cost of $12,189.37.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the repair. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the repair of fire engine 8162's front intake suction system at Reinhardt's Fire Equipment Service for an estimated cost of $12,189.37. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you. Claims, appropriations and contract payments, item 11A, review and possible action relating to the verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and authorization of payment.
I move to approve the list of verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and to authorize payment.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to approve the verified claims as presented. This is a roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Jekyll,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Schultz,
Aye.
President Lesko.
Aye, motion is approved unanimously. Closed session, item 12A, the city council may consider a motion to convene in closed session pursuant to state statute 19.851C to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. This is the annual performance review of the city manager.
I move to convene in a closed session pursuant to state statute section 19.851C to conduct the annual performance review of the city manager.
Second.
The motion is second to go into closed session. Any discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to convene in closed session pursuant to state statute section 19.851C to conduct the annual performance review of the city manager. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is approved. We are in closed session. Thanks, everyone.